I'm hoping that this is going to be a practical introduction. I know most of you have heard about this. I don't know if you have actually used it. I hope normally by now you should have used generative AI, especially the most common one, the most common tool out there, which is Chat GPT. Okay. So I believe most of you on this call already know me. I don't know how much. I think yeah, Chick already knows me. So obviously, I think Asongani at this not. I've heard your name several times. So I know Carol. Carol, recently you have downloaded the E2P framework, and I believe you have gone through the framework, and you probably have gone through my introduction. So I'm not going to spend much time here. Basically, that's my name. My name is Ivo Kubam, and I'm a Cameroonian like most of you. I think of everyone on this call. I don't know about Robert, but I'm a Cameroonian currently residing in Belgium. I'm the, let's say, face of Graffiland. So is my partner, so is on the call. So and I, we are the ones managing Graffiland. And both of us, we are into AI and data analytics, but maybe in the different, I'm mostly in the, let's say, first, before I was in the health sector, still I'm still in the health sector, and also I'm also in the business side of things as well. I started my journey since back in Cameroon after I had my degree in biochemistry. So I didn't want to get into lab things anymore. So I switched and I started doing data analytics. Yeah, my life is all about data. I really love reading, I like swimming, traveling, and also providing knowledge. So this is what I do right now. Is something I love doing, just giving out free knowledge as much as possible. I'm also very, very active on LinkedIn. You can send me a request or you can follow me on LinkedIn. I always provide, I think valuable information in case you're interested in AI and data. Okay, so basically the two major or subtopics we're going to have is obviously introduction to generative AI and also introduction to prompt engineering. So those are the two major topics we're going to have today. So part one, a little bit of background. It's very important that before we jump into the real thing, it's good for us to understand a little bit about how come artificial intelligence, or what has been the journey so far. But before I do, I want to teach you, like try to know your background knowledge about AI. So please, in the chat section, I would like to know, when do you think the concept of artificial intelligence was established or was born? So in the chat section, you can either put A, B, C, or D, or if you want, you can obviously put the year. Oh, yeah, Chick. By the time you go and ask ChatGPT and come back, maybe we have already answered the question. So I think Asongani says C. This is not an exam, so you don't need to go check and come back. Just randomly, what do you think? Yeah. Carol C as well. She goes for D, so 2005. I think so it's to type in. Yeah. Okay, so no, everyone is going for the oldest, so C. Okay, yeah, the right answer is C. Okay, so technically the word artificial intelligence was established back in 1956. It's not a new concept, even though with the latest booming of, to be more specific, generative AI, which was early 2020, right? You might think that is when artificial intelligence was born, but the concept of artificial intelligence has been there since from, I think, before most of us here on this call. In fact, all of us on this call were born. So the next I want to ask, the next question is about you guys. I started this call and I think already I've used the word GPT, and also Chick, you have used the word GPT or the acronym GPT. What does GPT stand for? What does GPT stand for? Carol says no idea. Better you have been using it, you have been hearing about it. Anyways, it's good that you're honest. Generative pre-trained transformer. Check the way you typed in that question is as if you looked it from somewhere. It's so bold, like it's a copy and paste. Okay. Anyway, so that's the right answer. So GPT stands for generative pre-trained models. Okay. Oh, but you got it, pre-trained transformers. You could, yeah, generative pre-trained transformers or pre-trained models as well. So it's basically the same bit. And the last question before we kick off. Yeah, in fact, you're kicked off already. I just want to get an understanding of your basic knowledge of artificial intelligence. So you've probably heard of the word LLM. LLM. What does it stand for? LLM. What does LLM stands for? Chick says no idea. That's fair enough. Full, you just joined us. Yeah, we are just like getting to know a little bit of the history of generative artificial intelligence. So I'm just asking what is the meaning of full meaning of LLM? I think so says large language models. So that's the right answer. LLM stands for large language models. One of the reasons why I'm asking you this is because the goal of you learning artificial intelligence is not just to go and using the tool so blindly. Try to understand some common terminologies around artificial intelligence so that when you're speaking, you speak like an intellectual. You don't speak like a casual user. Someone you can go on ChatGPT and using the tool. If you don't understand the mechanics behind it, you might not really fully utilize the tool. It's like you have a Ferrari in Cameroon, meaning that you cannot fully utilize the Ferrari. At the end of the day, there's no need having the Ferrari. Okay, so the right answer is large language models. Just so summary, this is the historical background of, take note, artificial intelligence and generative AI. So generative AI is a subword under artificial intelligence, and that is the common mistake a lot of people are making right now. So you can be, that's why the answer 2025 could be tempting, because generative AI, that word generative AI is a very new word. So actually started in 1956 in a research lab where this group of scientists, obviously scientists, they were trying to program a chatbot that could answer knowledge extracted from other scientists. So I'm not going to go into details of the history. This is not a history class. The goal here is to understand that the term artificial intelligence was coined back in 1956. Now, but they have bring some like really substantial progress. So in 1990, they started having statistical modeling. So statistical modeling, for most of you, I believe you're into health and you've been talking about statistical modeling, is the ability for you to use data in order to gain insight from it, or to understand a pattern in data and maybe do some prediction. So statistical analysis, from there, and then they came up with machine learning. Machine learning is all about just understanding the pattern that is in the historical data, and then you try to predict what is going to happen next, right? So basically, that's what we do as kids. Normally as kids, what happens is every day you understand that when this and these conditions happen, then a certain reaction will happen. So when you have that, then you can predict. Same thing if you see if the weather is getting dark and you start seeing I think nimbus cloud, if I'm not mistaken, then the next thing you start to do is what you predict that there might be rainfall. So basically that's what machine learning is just doing. Machine learning is just taking pattern that is found in data and trying to predict what's going to happen next. Then that was machine learning. Around 2017, a lot of research was being done around a special type of network called neural networks. So neural networks is just a special type of machine learning model that really deals like it takes the architecture of the neurons in your brain, right? Where you see the neurons that have been so many layers of neurons, they are being attached to each other. So that is the architecture that was kind of booming around 2017. For most of you might have heard of deep learning. So deep learning, because of that neural network, they coined a special term called deep learning. But there was a big, let's say, there was a big boom or motivation or progress that was being made. These neural networks had some limitations, especially the recurrent neural networks. From the limitation, they were able to solve that limitation, and they came up with a special type of architecture, which are called the transformers. So the transformers is a special type of architecture that solves the limitations of recurrent network. So the recurrent network is for deep learning, and the transformer architecture is now what is called the large language models. So the large language models is a special form of neural networks, which mostly, yeah, you could say the transformer architecture. And this gave birth to generative pre-trained models. So these generative pre-trained models is just like, architectures that have billions upon billions of parameters. You need to understand that even in basic statistical analysis, what are you doing in statistical analysis? You're just having parameters and you're using data to estimate the coefficients. That is just statistics, right? For you that have done, you're trying to predict if the p-value of whatsoever is greater than 0.0.5. That's what you're just trying to do. So basically, that is what you're doing. But the difference between this type of models, which they call large language models, and basic statistical modeling or machine learning models is we're dealing with billions upon billions of parameters. So if you have billions and billions of parameters, then you need huge amount of data. That is why ChatGPT, for them to train such a model, they needed to use almost scrap the whole of the internet. That's what they claim. I don't know how true is that, but they had to scrap the whole internet in order to train such models. Take, for example, if you have a statistical model, which is just about 10, if you're already going to around 10 parameters or 10 variables, then your sample size is supposed to be large, right? Then imagine we're talking about billions upon billions of parameters, then you need huge amount of data. And for those of you that haven't watched my last video on Sunday about cloud technology, I really encourage you to go do so, because it's because of that technology that a lot is happening today. Before, you and I, we could not train such a model. Imagine you have to train billions of parameters. You cannot use your laptop for that. So you need sophisticated supercomputers that only big organizations such as Microsoft, Google, IBM, all those big guys, they do have resources for that. But nowadays, you and I, we can access those kind of technology. You can access those kind of resources by using the cloud technology. So that is the summary of the historical summary of generative AI. So this is just a diagram to illustrate that around. You clearly see that artificial intelligence is the umbrella word. Then from there, you had statistical learning, but to be more specific, they had to do machine learning in terms of this. And then deep learning is a subset, it's a special type of models for that is also machine learning, and generative AI is a subset. So if someone asks you, is generative AI models type, is it a machine learning technique? Yes, it's a machine learning technique, so don't get confused. And same is all artificial intelligence. So don't think that ChatGPT, when someone talks about generative AI, your only direction should be ChatGPT. No, there are other things that are happening. Artificial intelligence, there's computer vision, there's natural language processing, there is Internet of Things. There's so many things under artificial intelligence, but just that this generative AI is the one that is booming right now. Okay, so what is artificial intelligence? I've been using the keyword artificial intelligence. Basically, in layman terms, artificial intelligence is just the ability of computers to simulate what humans are trying to do. Before, I needed a secretary to maybe draft an email. I needed a secretary to, when I write an email or I write a text or I do something, I'll need someone to probably proofread and correct my English. But today, I don't do that. If I need to make a post on or write an article, I just start pouring out my ideas, and then I use ChatGPT to correct. So I can ask ChatGPT to perform like my assistant and maybe correct those things for me. The other way around, if I'm short of ideas, I can ask ChatGPT to generate me a whole article. You could say, ChatGPT, generate me an article on generative AI. It's going to give you something out of it. So that is just it. So the whole goal of artificial intelligence or generative AI, artificial intelligence is just to mimic. And generative AI is a special type of artificial intelligence. By now, I guess you already know. But the main capability, it all started by generating text. Even though now you can use ChatGPT to give a command and say you want a picture of someone that is somewhere doing something, it can actually generate you an image. But they all started by generating text. So yeah, I think even recently, I think weekend Facebook released a new type of model. I haven't really researched about it, but I've heard about that is more really, really powerful as compared to what we have, what ChatGPT can do. Okay, so I want to take you guys a little bit into the mechanics of generative AI or the large language models. No one is ever going to ask you this, but it's good that as you are going online or you're using those tools, the more you understand how the tool works, the better you can give commands, right? So like I said, if you don't know all the functionalities of a Ferrari, there's really no need having a Ferrari because you will just be underutilizing the Ferrari. So basically, large language models, these are already pre-trained models. So there is nothing as you yourself you're training. When you provide in your command or whatever, you're not training those models. Those models have already been trained. What you're doing is they just take your input, understand the way you want, and generate the next. So technically, they are just doing the same thing like machine learning models. They are just doing prediction. What is the next possible words that if I put is going to make sense in this sentence? And that is it. But I'm going to explain more to that. So these LLM models, what they do, they receive text and they generate text as output, right? And the texts are broken down into tokens. That is why when you're on ChatGPT, especially the free one, they will tell you the ChatGPT 3 model can only take this amount of tokens. So you need to understand what is the meaning of tokens. So the free version has a limitation, and the paid version has also a limitation. You cannot just carry, for example, a whole textbook and you dump onto ChatGPT and start asking questions. It's not going to work because it has a limitation. So what are tokens? So you can clearly see like this example, the sentence is, what is a tokenizer? You see, when you type in such a sentence into ChatGPT, it breaks it down into small chunks. So just understand that tokens are small chunks that the model tries to understand. So when you send in a sentence to ChatGPT, it doesn't try to understand the full sentence. It breaks the sentence into small chunks so that it can understand. Same thing if you have same thing, you cannot just take food and you just dump it to your mouth, right? You try to bite so you can actually have manageable chunks. So in this case, this sentence has one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's made up of 6 tokens. So such a sentence is made up of 6 tokens. And for those of you, I don't know if you guys have background in machine learning, when you're doing natural language processing, this is what happens. The first level of natural language processing is that you take the sentence and you break them into chunks. When you break them into chunks, and which technically you use the keyword tokens, it is now converted into integers. This is something you need to understand, that machine learning models don't understand text. So no matter what you do, at the end of the day, it will be converted into integers. So this is just an array of integers. So like for example, the word is the integer representative is 318. So that is what is happening. I believe, for example, like Chick, and I don't know about the others, but I know you guys are into statistical modeling. If you collect data, let's say gender, and you wrote F, let's say male and female, that's how it was collected. But if you want to run the analysis, you cannot just carry the male and female and you dump into your model. It's not going to work. So what you have to do, you have to code it right. You have to say male is equals to 1 and female is equals to 2. So anything at the end of the day, whatever you're supplying to your model must be in integers. That's something you need to understand. So this is what happens when you send in the sentence. It's being broken down into chunks, which is called tokens, and the tokens are converted into integers. This is what that is being used to train models or to use to predict the next thing that's going to happen. Now, so what actually happens is when you have these chunks or what, there's another type of model that actually takes the words and converts them into the tokens, into those integers. Okay, so that the model exists. So that when the model receives your text, it actually breaks them down into small chunks called tokens. There's another type of model that is just there behind the scene. So you can consider such models as the pre-processing models or the pre-processing steps. So it will now take those small words and convert them into integers. And those integers are called embeddings. So in the previous one, I just said numbers or array of numbers, but the key word, the technical word is called embeddings. And the process of converting those tokens into embeddings, those types of models are called converters. So basically, that is what is happening behind the scene. So there are other special types of models that their responsibility is not to generate any text, it's just to convert tokens into embeddings. And these embeddings is what that is being sent into the machine learning model or into the large language models. Guys, if you have any question, if I'm too fast, just let me know in the chat section. I'm seeing the chat section, okay? Now, so basically we are still looking at how to these things work, right? So generative, large language models, again. So when you write a letter, for example, write a letter to my teacher about blah, 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 that is a prompt, okay? I'm still going to come into prompting, what is the meaning of prompts. You now have the generative AI neural network that will actually generate you a text, right? So this is what you see. This is what you see, but I've explained you what is happening behind the scene. Behind the scene is not what you think that is happening. So you don't think that when you send in the instruction, the model understands you directly in your words and does everything. No, but when it does it, it also predicts or generates numbers. But before it sends the numbers to you, it converts those numbers into words. So this is what you see. So generally, this is the framework of generative AI. You already know this. I don't think this is news. So you just know that whatever you give in is called an input. Normally, you call it prompt. That's the keyword. So you send in your input, which is called prompts. The model now generates text. It generates the text and it sends you an output, which is called completion. So when maybe if you're discussing with more technical folks, you'll be hearing of input or prompt, or you say generation, or you say completion. When you say completion, it means the output. So this is just a framework. It's a three-phase framework. You give me something, I'm going to generate you something, then I give you a reply in terms of completion. So some practical application of generative AI includes text generation. This is what most of you know, which is chat GPT, right? It's the common, if you can go online, anyone can have an account. We're going to have a practical session on that. I'm going to show you how I use it as well. There are other models too. You should not just get carried away thinking that generative AI is equal to ChatGPT. No, ChatGPT is just a tool. It's just one of the applications of generative AI. Other models include Lambda and Bloom. I also mentioned that now we have seen advancement in generative AI where it can now it actually generates images. And the most common one is DALL-E. So DALL-E, I think, is also part of the OpenAI portfolio. So you know that OpenAI is the company that actually started that released ChatGPT and started booming. But there are other companies that are also working behind the scene when it comes to generative AI. So other models also include Midjourney and Adobe Firefly. Those are things you can go and research. I don't think they are all open source. We know ChatGPT is open source. Anyone can create an account. I think for DALL-E, you need to have, it's a paid account. You cannot access DALL-E for free. Same thing. Now, if you maybe when you were small, you were thinking of becoming a musician, and for some reason that you're not a scientist, you still have that passion, you can still go back and become a musician. So there's now a model that can help you generate audio generation. So you can say, can you write me a music, blah blah blah, of this format, of this nature? Yeah, it's going to generate you lyrics that you can, if you still have the passion for singing, you can sing. Then the last one is video as well. Video is just a combination of images. So you can actually ask a model such as Sora and Runway to generate you a video. If you want to generate a video of an advert or something, you can actually write the instructions in normal plain English, and it's going to generate you a video format. Now, the thing about the reason why this generative AI is really booming is because before, like let's say for example, machine learning models, you needed to be technical in order to use it. But now with ChatGPT, you don't need to be technical. The world is moving towards the direction where you don't need to be technical. The less technical you become, even the better. Because now with ChatGPT, it can really do a lot of technical things. So your responsibility is to get the information out of it and really now be that you have that human interaction with another, to have that human interaction. So for example, if I was spending 3 hours writing emails, I can now reduce that to about 10 minutes just writing emails. So I get the emails and I send them out, and I spend my other 2 hours, 50 minutes to be talking to clients or to be talking to you guys, right? So that is the power of generative AI. Now, so that was it about just a light, and I hope you've understood the background of generative AI, how it works in terms of you need to understand tokens. You need to understand that tokens are broken down into embeddings, and those embeddings, these are the things that are sent into the generative AI, and the generative AI generates then other embeddings, and from there it converts it back to words and gives you in terms of output. So have in mind those keywords. Those are things you need to know. You don't need to go into the details of neural networks. How does it, how like the layers, how is the machine learning model trained? But if you really want to get advanced in that area, you need to also understand that if you have a developer account in ChatGPT, in OpenAI, for example, you need to start playing around with temperature. Those are things that if you're becoming technical, yes, then you need to go into some really background knowledge of generative AI. Questions? Is it too overwhelming? Did I say something that is strange? Okay, I hope you guys are still on the same wavelength with me. Okay, let's go to the more like the interesting part, the part that you guys probably, this is what you guys know, right? But as I mentioned, the way the world is going now, or the way technology and the way our work is general, everything is moving, the better you become good at prompt engineering, the better for you. Okay, this is where you get the best out of ChatGPT. That's why I said if you have a Ferrari and you cannot use a Ferrari and then you're just underutilizing it, you should just better get your normal, maybe small Toyota car somewhere. So the technology is there, but you need to know how to use it. Okay, and that is what we want to do right now, prompt engineering. I just wish to find out, those on the call, do you have an account on ChatGPT? If you don't, yeah, I just wish to find out if by now, do you have an account on ChatGPT account? I'm using it through Bing. Yeah, okay, yeah, Kara, that's true. Full, you don't have, okay? Nope, I have something like a Bing Copilot account. I think that is the same thing. Yeah. Okay. I know Dam is using Copilot, which is good. I don't know about the others. So, guys, this is something you need to have. This is not, don't be like, I keep saying, don't be like those people when the internet came and they were resisting the internet, thinking that the internet trying to fight the internet. The internet is coming to take over jobs. Don't be the guy that is fighting. At this level, whether you like it or not, this technology is going nowhere. And more people are accepting the technology. The more you join the race and be ahead of the race, the better for you. You're going to see that when you learn this technology and you become better at it, you will definitely will be better than any of your competitors. Because someone will claim that I'm not using it, but behind the scene, that's what they're using. Okay. So it's free. I think it's free, right? You can with the account is free. You can create an account. Even Bing, you just need to have, I think, an Outlook account or something. You can actually use that of Bing, and Bing is very nice as well. So what is prompt? This is something you guys have been hearing about. Prompt is it's easy. It's prompt, just in layman terms, it's just an instruction you're giving to the model to do something for you. Okay. Now this is where it becomes, for those of you that you hate asking questions, this is where you'll be lacking behind, because the better you can ask the question, the more the prompt, the more the model will give you very accurate results. So you need to be good at asking questions. So don't be surprised that you'll be hired tomorrow by a company just because you know how to ask questions. The better you can ask questions, the model is going to give you the very good results. So basically that is prompt, right? Prompt is just the instructions you give to the model in order to influence the quality of the return responses. So prompt engineering focuses on optimization. So when you talk about prompt engineering, anything that has to do with engineering. Engineering is the process like you trying to optimize something. Maybe there is maybe today there's something that is producing X amount of something. You want to optimize it so that it can produce 10 folds or 50 fold. So basically, no matter what you send into ChatGPT, it will definitely give you a response. But the engineering aspect is how good are you in fine-tuning your instructions or your questions so that it produces consistent and quality results. Okay. So there is no formula in this thing. No one is going to tell you that this is the formula. Let's say you know that the Pythagoras theorem is a squared plus b squared is equals to c squared. There is no formula like that in prompt engineering. It's all about arts. It's like an art, okay? You just need to look at the result. Does it make sense to me? If not, you look at the loopholes and you fine-tune your question so that the model can give you better responses. But there are guidelines in order to get better results out of it. These are just guidelines. These are not formulas. Okay, so why is prompt engineering very important? You want to be sure that you get quality results. As we mentioned, ChatGPT will always 99% of the time give you a response. But the quality of the results, are you sure about it? That's why you need to be good at prompt engineering to be sure that you get quality results. I think by now they have actually improved on the model that is, as much as possible, is trying not to fabricate results. This is what is called hallucination. Some of you have probably heard the word hallucination. So sometimes the model hallucinates. So you ask it something, it starts spilling out things that are not even related to what you're asking. So it's kind of fabricating. So it's good at fabricating things that doesn't exist. For example, you can ask ChatGPT to tell you something that will happen in 2050. It will give you a response. But those are fabricated responses. So you need to be very good at your prompt engineering so that it reduces the amount of fabricated results it can give you. Another thing too is, you have the free versions. And obviously, when someone tells you there's always a free thing and there's a paid one, just understand that the paid one has more capabilities. If I tell you today that, okay, I have another session for premium generative AI lessons, it's obvious that what I'm giving at the free one does not equate, or it can still be of quality, but there is something more I will give in the premium version, right? So the fact that OpenAI has the free one, which is Model 3, and the paid one, which is Model 4, the Model 4 has more capabilities. It has more advanced features. It can take more tokens. It can generate more tokens. So maybe I don't really know the limitations of the current ChatGPT 3 model. So let's say, for example, maybe the Model 3 can only take one page document. Maybe the Model 4 can take maybe 3 to 4 pages. So you see, if you have a document that you want to summarize using ChatGPT, and it's for like 4 pages, and you cannot use the model 3. So depending on the model, they have advanced capabilities, and every day these guys are working on it to make the models better and better. Then stochastic responses. So the thing is, today, if you ask ChatGPT, not even today, in less than 5 minutes, if you ask ChatGPT what is something, the next minute you ask the same question, it will generate, there's a chance that it will generate something different. It is being done for a reason. So there is that stochastic responses, the responses are not deterministic. When we say deterministic, it means that every time you ask the question, it will not guarantee you the same response. If you understand what is happening is, anyways, I'll come to how the thing is generating responses, okay? I'm going to explain why when you ask ChatGPT something, it's obviously going to give you different responses for the same question. Now we're going to look at the different types of prompts. So prompt is just the general thing, general word for instructions, but there are different types of prompts. Okay, so we have this for now. This is just for this introductory lessons. I'm going to talk about, I think, 5 of them. So for basic prompts, a basic prompt is just a text input that you just give the model. We know context. So for example, if I ask ChatGPT, so if I just go to the model and I say generative AI, or I put malaria, or I put Europe, or I put computers or climate, technically this is very, very vague. So it will not limit itself by asking you to provide context. It will just spill out something, right? And that is the basic prompts. So maybe your first day of using ChatGPT, you just went online and asked, say something about malaria, or say something about Europe or computers or whatever. It's going to generate you something. And I have a result there. I hope it is visible. So when I also just put the word generative AI without asking, without giving more instruction, it actually generated me something by just telling me, you see, this is what you already know. Today, I started by saying that generative AI is a subset of artificial intelligence that focuses on creating blah, 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 and all those things. So it just gives you a general overview of generative AI. But this, yeah, it can be okay. Maybe you're good with this response, but maybe if you are a more advanced student, let's say you're doing PhD in generative AI, you'd expect a more sophisticated response, or maybe you are a layman, then you need a more subtle response, right? So the fact that you did not give a context, the ChatGPT does not know who is asking the question, but obviously, like I said, it's always going to give you a response. So you should avoid such types of prompts that has no context, just basic prompts. This is not the way you should use ChatGPT. It's just like entering a Ferrari and just clicking on drive and start going, not knowing that there's a lot you can do in the Ferrari. The next type is actually giving instructions. So you have given a text, but you want to give more instructions. Okay. So in the previous example, I just said, for example, you could give cancer. Cancer is a broad term, but now I can really specify that how is cancer developed? So now you're trying to give a little bit of instruction. You're guiding the ChatGPT model. You're guiding the model to go somewhere a little bit specific. Now, there are several things you can talk about cancer. For example, what are the different types of cancer? How is cancer developed? Distribution of cancer. There are a lot of things you can talk about cancer, but now I just kind of ask, how is cancer developed? And this still is not very, very specific, because there are different types of cancer and the way they develop, even though we just understand that cancer is just cells that are multiplying in a way that you cannot control. But I believe that I know that some certain types of cancer, the way they develop or they are developed is different from the way other cancers, the other types of cancers are developed. So this is still not a very good prompt, but at least you have coined it a little bit by asking for something specific. Yeah, these are other examples, right? Write an email to my manager. Yeah. If, let's say, for example, so is my manager, I just say write an email to my manager. About what? You're writing an email about what? So this is still not, it's a step ahead, but it's still not a good prompt, but at least you have started giving it some instruction. And when I do that, you see, how do large language model work? Now, you see, it's no longer giving me historical things about generative AI as before. Or if I just wrote large language model, it will start spilling out the definition of large language models. But when I was asking about how it works, it started giving me, okay, I need to understand that it has an architecture, which Chick mentioned about transformer neural networks, right? We mentioned that this transformer neural network was the reason why we started having this gain in generative AI. You need training data. I mentioned that they had to scrape the whole internet, right? Books, everything in order to train the model. Tokenization, we have mentioned that you take the large chunk of text and you break it down into small chunks. Then learning representation, attention mechanism. These are things that I did not mention. But if you really want to go into the details of how these things actually work, then you can ask the model itself how it works. But you don't need to go that deep, except you want to go very, very technical. But still yet, this is still not a good, at least it's a good prompt, but there's still a lot you can do. Okay, this is another example in 5 steps. Okay, now this one was just brought. I said, how do large language model work? Then I went and I say, okay, because it actually generated me like, I think almost 10, yeah, almost like 10 points. I just said, okay, in 5 steps, explain how these models work. So it's a collect the data, and tokenization, encoding and representation learning, training the model, inference and generation. So basically, that is what I just needed to know in 5 steps. Same thing, you can have, let's say, an article, which about for like maybe 20 pages, and you say, in 1 page, please summarize me this article. At least that is something. If you just say summarize the article, it's going to maybe summarize maybe 1 page or 2 pages or 3 pages. You're not sure of that. You could say summarize in 1 page, or I need summarize in 100 words, and it's going to give you exactly 100 words. So the more you fine tune your instructions, the better you get the results out of ChatGPT. Now, prompts with context. Still yet, I haven't given a context. Okay, so this is just still an instruction, but you give a relevant content. So this is what I usually do most of the time. Okay, so for example, the way before, like this morning, I'm doing an article on job rejections. Why? For me, it's not like statistics shows that if you're relying on platforms such as LinkedIn and Indeed or Glassdoor for your jobs, then you only have access to 3% of the jobs that are available, or opportunities that are available. 95% of opportunities in any job, including AI and data, you will never see them on platforms. So I'm doing a write-up on that. So when I wake up in the morning, I just start writing. I don't care. I just write everything, even if the English is not correct or what. I just pour my ideas on my laptop. Then I take it to ChatGPT and I say, okay, based on this context, I start giving my instructions. So I would say, as a professional editor, I want you to correct my English, arrange the sentences, take into consideration that my target audience as graduates who are non-tech professionals who want to become AI and data specialists. Don't change so already all the instructions that I'm giving is based on the context. I'm not asking ChatGPT to generate me an article, but I've actually written my article, then it's there, and then I ask ChatGPT and I give the instruction. So in that case, this is the best way to use ChatGPT, that you give it the context, it's based on that context, and it doesn't deviate from that context. Same thing, if you have an article or a scientific paper, when you put the scientific paper, then you start asking questions and you instruct that, all the responses should come from that article or from that scientific paper. Don't try to hallucinate. Don't try to generate your own ideas. It should come from that context. So this is probably the best way to use large language models, by giving it a context. Okay, so I just explained. So I was, in this example, I wanted to generate a context for me. So I said, write a brief story about Titanic. So it gave me a brief story. Then I said, explain the moral lesson of this story in 5 points. So it is based on the story, Normally, I was not supposed to use it to generate me a story, but I did not have a story to put there. Just assume that the story was already there. That was my context. Then I say, explain the moral lesson of this story in 5 points. So it actually gave me the 5 important points of things I need to know, or moral lessons that I needed to know from that Titanic havoc, right? Sacrifice and selflessness, value of teamwork and cooperation, learn from history, hubris leads to downfall, whatsoever, importance of preparedness. So those are the 5 lessons that you needed to know from that context. So personally, this is one of the best ways of using large language models. But again, there is still a lot to add to this. Just saying, explain the moral lesson. If you're giving this moral lesson to a 5-year-old, they might not understand this. So there's another thing also called, who is it? I mentioned about my audience. I always tell the model, or doing my instructions, who is my model, or behave like this type of person. So I could say, as a professor in history, explain the moral lessons of the story. Then you explain that you expect that since I'm talking about a professor, then it should give me high value, or it should consider that maybe my audience will also be my other professors. So I expect a more sophisticated response. Guys, as I'm going on, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. But I hope it's making sense. So prompt with examples as primary context. So I explained that you can actually give it the primary context and say, focus on that context, don't deviate. This is very important, especially for those of you that are based in Africa, because they claim that the thing was, they actually scrapped the whole internet in order to generate, in order to have these large language models. We all know that we don't really generate as much information back home, because we don't have access to internet that frequent. So somehow the model is already biased. So if you ask, for example, this model to generate you something in a native language in Cameroon, I've never tried, but I don't think it will generate. But if you ask it to generate something in Russian language, in whatever, it's going to generate, because while they were doing the training, yes, they were able to scrap things that are that were written in German or in Russian or whatever. So in your context, if there's something you want to say, if you're writing something, always make sure you have a context, especially if you know that context there's a higher chance that it wasn't used in training the model. So you also have types of context. It's either you provide it or you give it examples. So you have your instructions, I give it few examples, and then it's going to like, okay, based on this example, then I think this is what this guy is trying to say. And there are different types of such prompts with examples. You have 0-shot prompting, 1-shot prompting, and few-shot prompting. So for the 0-shot prompting, you're just like an example with explicit instruction. So pineapple, what is the scientific name? I haven't given it any example, right? I just said pineapple, what is the scientific name? Then I said computer, translate to French. In this case, 0-shot, which means that there is no example I'm giving it. I'm just putting what I want, and I ask. It's still like a basic prompt. So when I do that, you see pineapple, what is the scientific name? You see the scientific name of pineapple is Ananas comossus, and computer translate to French. It was able to translate to French. Okay, computer so translate. Okay, so that is that. But this is where you have fun, where you don't give it an instruction. You just say pineapple, ananas, comossus, and you ask mango. Same thing, computer, ordinate, and you say keyboard. Without giving instructions, the model is going to try to imagine what this guy is trying to do. The fact that you have written computer and ananas, comossus is going to like, okay, somehow he's going to understand that the scientific name of pineapple is Ananas comossus, and if you're putting mango, then indirectly you are asking it to give it the scientific name. So that is an example of 1-shot prompting. So 1-shot prompting, just giving one example and just indirectly asking for something without implicitly or explicitly asking the question. So when I do, anyways, so then few-shot prompting, obviously just giving more examples, right? So I've given 2 examples here and 2 examples here. I'm asking for something. Let's see the example. So when I put pineapple this, mango this, and I ask for watermelon, it actually just gave me the scientific name without me asking, like really giving instructions about what I'm asking. So you cannot just put watermelon and expect it to just say, to give you the scientific name. If you don't have examples, then you should be explicit with your instruction. What is the scientific name of watermelon is going to give you. But maybe you have, I think, for example, you have a question that has several examples and someone is asking you to follow the pattern and give responses and you don't know, then you can just copy the thing and place it in ChatGPT. It's going to try to understand that, okay, pineapple is equals to this is equals to this, and obviously this guy is asking for the same type of response. That's going to give you that. So the more examples you give to the model, it gets better in responding. If you just give one example, it might not pick it, it might not get it, but the more examples you give, then it understands the pattern. So those are the basic types of models or basic types of prompting. Somehow I've also explained that when you're doing this, always make sure you give it like I would say a subject or like an author, like who is the model representing. If you want it, if you're writing, if you're being given an assignment like in a master's class in, let's say, in microbiology, then you can really say as a microbiology student at the master's level, please write me, there's no need to say please, write how is malaria transmitted. The way the model is going to respond will be different from if it was a Form 5 student asking for the same thing. You don't expect, if you are in the master's level and someone is a Form 5, the way you guys will present your information should be different. So be very explicit who you are or who you want the model to represent. Sometimes also when I'm writing, I'm very, very explicit and I say, as a professional editor, edit my script to show some professionalism, use this type of words, use this type of audience, or consider this type of audience. Sometimes I really want to be very, very simple, and I tell it, be very, very simple. Use very simple words, especially if I'm posting on LinkedIn. I know some people don't, yeah, if you post something and you're using very advanced words, then it makes no sense because some of your audience will not understand. So always have in mind that you can further fine-tune your prompts by really giving it some taste of who the audience are or who the model should represent. Okay, so best practices when it comes to prompting, domain understanding matters. So I know, for example, I have a very, very good background in AI and data, right? So if I ask something and it gives me a response, there's a way I can judge if that response is good. So your domain knowledge really, domain expertise really matters. If you're a health student or you're a microbiologist or you're from finance, if you ask something and it produces an answer, the fact that you have a background, then you can use your expert knowledge in order to evaluate if the response is really good enough. That's why your domain knowledge really matters a lot. Then you need to understand the models, understand the model, right? I mentioned that the fact that the open AI is using model 3.0 and you have the paid version, you need to understand that if you supply the same quality prompt for the open version and the paid version, you should expect that the paid version should give you more quality results. So you should not feel bad that someone is having a quality report than you, even though you guys are using the same technology. Understand that the model really matters a lot. And that's why you see these guys are fighting. Today, Google is releasing, tomorrow, Facebook is releasing, the next day, OpenAI is releasing. They're all fighting to have the best type of model because the more you can prove that your model has quality, people will run towards your model. Iteration and validation matters. Sometimes when you give instructions, the output doesn't really make sense. You have to reiterate or maybe reiterate or maybe reprogram your instructions. Sometimes it doesn't get the instructions well, the way you present your idea, or the way you presented the question or the instruction, it wasn't really that good. It's all about, like I said, it's not science. You're not sure that if you say x plus 1 or 1 plus 2 will give you 3. It's just about arts. Don't feel like it's a scientific process. It's just having that ability to ask very, very good questions and keep it, like doing it over and over until you get very good results. Again, some best practices: evaluate the quality of the model, separate instructions and context. So I mentioned that when I'm doing my write-up, I do a write-up. So I paste the write-up above and I skip like 1-2 lines. Then I start giving my instructions. Don't put the context and immediately you don't even skip a line, you start giving instructions. So at least create some space so that the model will understand that this is the context and this is my instruction. Okay. Be specific and clear. There's no need to say, please, can you? No. Just go straight to the point. Like you're giving instruction to a robot. A robot does not need you to be kind. Just say, describe this, that in 5 simple words. There's no need to say, kindly describe this in 5 simple words. You don't need to say those things. Just go straight to the point. Be descriptive and use examples. Sometimes the model might not understand you. So just to clarify the model, the format you want, you can actually give the format. Say, I want you to put this in 5 bullet points. I just said the last time in one of my instructions, in one of my instructions or prompts, I said in 5 points. It could give the points in paragraph form. I could say give the thing in 5 bullet points, maximum of 2 lines each. So be very descriptive and use examples. Use cues to jumpstart completion. Like I gave you the example of pineapple and all those things. Then double down. Double down means if there's something that's very, very important. For me, when I write my article, I really emphasize the model, not to change my tone, don't change my context, don't change the core aspect of my article. Because this thing is very funny. Sometimes you write your thing and it will just change the thing into something else. I think if you have been following me or you have been reading most of my things, if the way I write, you might already understand. Same thing, if you know someone, the way they speak, you already know that this is how this person speaks. And if for some reason they come up with something different, you know that this thing is fake. So double down means you can really tell it, like you put in capital letters, do not change the context of this. Or if you really want it to give instruction based on a certain type of persona. For example, as a master's student in microbiology, you can put those things in capital letters. It will understand that you are stressing on that aspect. So anything that you really need it to be stressed or emphasized, put it in capital letters. Then the other matters, same thing. The way you speak, the way you ask questions really, really matters, right? So it's good to have the context, then you have the instructions, not instructions, then context. So give it the context. So it's like, I want you to evaluate the script. So you give the script, then give the instructions. I want you to evaluate the script on 10. I want you to evaluate my pitch. I want you to evaluate my article on 10. Criticize it in using different aspects. So ideally, the context should be up, then instructions below. Then give the model an out. It means sometimes the model will not know anything to do, like they hallucinate. You can clearly say, if you don't know the answer, just say you don't know the answer. Don't hallucinate it. The thing is always trying to give you a response. It doesn't want to make it like feel like he's a fool or he doesn't know. So always give it just say, if you don't know, say you don't know. That is like a backup, right? Yeah, don't allow it to hallucinate or maybe fabricate results for you. Key takeaways, AI is not a new technology. Of artificial intelligence, to be more specific, it's not a new technology, but the generative AI aspect of it, the subset generative AI, is something that just started during COVID, right? Or I think just immediately after COVID. Then you need to know that artificial intelligence or generative AI is powered by large language models. Large language models are a special type of machine learning models. The reason why it's called large language models is because it has billions upon billions of parameters. And we have billions upon billions of parameters. It means it was trained using huge amount of data. And I've mentioned that the reason why these guys are able to do what they're doing, and the reason why you and I were on this call, is because of the core technology called cloud technology. Everything is moving towards the cloud. So if you call yourself a statistical analysis today, or you call yourself whatever, if you don't know the basic things about cloud technology, maybe maybe in Cameroon, you in Africa, they might not be using it, but if you're thinking of working internationally, these are things that you need to know, that cloud technology is what is the de facto now of, that's the way we operate, by using cloud technology. You might not use it directly, but like I said, the fact that you and I, we are on this call, is because of cloud technology. Prompt is the key input. So your result depends on the quality of your prompts, right? We have really touched on several things that you need to know about prompting. I hope it makes sense, but there are more advanced way of doing prompting. Okay, I'm going to provide you resources. A very good resource that I use to prepare this lecture. You can actually study it as well. It's quite good, and there's more advanced topics that you can learn. But with what you have here, is you're good to go. Okay, that is what I prepared for you guys. So I'm open to questions, remarks. I hope it makes sense. If something wasn't clear, or if you want me to explain something or do something, this is the time for you to ask. Thanks, Chick, for the upload. Guys, you can feel free if you can unmute yourself and ask your questions. Yeah, why maybe you're thinking of your questions. This is on your CV. If you're looking normally, I don't know, I'm sure most of you are searching. This is something you can obviously have on your CV too. Okay, you know how to use, always put there, AI prompting. But you should put it because you know how to use it, not because I said it. So just put there, AI prompting. Yeah, Chick.
I want to use for ChatGPT. Like, you want to use ChatGPT, which app do you use?
For me, I just go online. I have my browser is always open. So let me see, I can exit this thing. I hope you're still seeing my screen though.
Yes.
Do you see the ChatGPT?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is what I do. I use this. I also use so I think Carol, you mentioned this, right? I also use that of Edge browser.
Okay.
Today I was trying to do something. I'm not good at HTML, but I was able to program something already, and I hosted a website today just by asking questions. I just copied and I said I needed to do this, do that. It gave me the answer. I went into the code, I changed the thing, and that was it. Maybe to also answer your question, this is, you see, I'm doing an article today. This morning, this is what yeah. So you see, maybe let me just give you, before we part ways, I encourage you to take 2 lessons notes. If you have, by completing the exercise. So this is me today, right? So this is my context. This is something I wrote today. This is the article. I'm still writing it. So keep an eye on LinkedIn, or obviously I'm going to share with you guys on WhatsApp. So this is the article the first part I wrote today. All of this is this, that. Then I came here and I say, okay, as a professional article editor, edit the article and make necessary modifications to have version ready to be published. Take note of the following. Don't alter the author's message. I hate when the thing alters my message. I have my style of writing. If you're reading my thing, if you know me well, the way I write, I have a specific way of writing. So I give the instructions, keep the tone and simplicity, write such that a reader feels the message is directed to him or her. The audience of these articles are Generation Y and Z. I hope you guys know what is Generation Y and Z. We're interested in AI and data, finding jobs, blah, blah, blah. The article is still in progress. So I've just written the first part of the article. I have plans of continuing tomorrow. So I say the next session will be provided later. Use other critical and important aspects to revise the article. Now, the result was not very good. It started doing something that I didn't want. It really, really summarized my text, cut out a lot of things that I didn't want. I came back and I said, this revised edition is not what I want. Keep it, keep the original version. Don't alter the message. Don't revise it. Keep the flow. It came again. I was giving me something else. I got angry. I said, don't revise. Just correct any grammatical errors. Use simple sentences when necessary. It came now and gave me, it still did not give me what I want. I copied again and I pasted. Then I just don't alter the message. So you see, it's more like it's like I said, it's art, right? Sometimes when I do this, it gives me very good results. Sometimes it's just it's a mess. That is why I say it's not deterministic. Sometimes my instructions work well. Sometimes it don't. Normally, it produces something funny. And the fact that I'm using the free version, then I don't expect to have quality results. But when I gave it the second time, it gave me something very, very good. Yeah. So that's how I use it. I also use this other guy. The Edge, it's Edge, right? It's good because it gives you links. For example, if you search something, what is the nice thing about it, it actually goes in real time and extract from different web pages and gives a summary. Then it gives the links where you can click and go and read further if you want. But ChatGPT doesn't give you links. Maybe the version 4 now gives you the links, but that's the difference between the ChatGPT and the Edge version. Okay. I hope that answers your question. I see Asongani says, yeah, thank you, Ivo, for this session. Yeah, welcome. Please, for some of us who don't have an account with any AI tool like ChatGPT, how do we create an account? It's easy. Just go online and you say ChatGPT, right? So you go to ChatGPT and this is it. The things that I've already logged in. So normally you will ask you to create an account. Okay. So maybe ChatGPT create an account. So you see, that's a nice thing. Edge kind of already summarizes you the steps, but if you don't want, you can come in to OpenAI and you click a login. As I said, I've already logged in. That's why it doesn't ask me to log in. In your case, it's going to ask you to create an account using your email. You follow the steps, then you should have your account. Yeah, Carol. Asongani, I hope that answers your question. I hope that was helpful. There's no better way I can answer you, but that's just the way you have to create an account. Mhm. Carol, I see your hand is up. Do you have a question? Okay. So I'm going to, and yeah, I'll prepare you guys I'll send you the slides. So these are extra resources. So you receive an email when it's ready, and also a link to the recording if for some reason you want to still watch the video. Yeah. So I'm going to send some resources where you can actually read. This resource is quite good. There are other places where you can, in fact, all these big guys are all providing free stuff around AI. But I really love the one for Microsoft. Yeah, for Google, you can check it out. Same thing. AWS has something, but AWS is a little bit more technical. Yeah. Carol, you say, is there any risks we should be aware of using? Yeah, very, very important. That's a very good question. Now, you just know that anything you put in ChatGPT automatically, it's been absorbed into the model, right? Even though they claim that the model is not, they don't use your data anymore to train their model. Because you need to understand that the model has already been trained. That's why it's called a pre-trained model. It doesn't depend on your data again for training. So they already claim that the model it has a structure that already understands the pattern. So when you're putting in anything there, you need to be careful with the data. If you have a very sensitive data, for you, if you are using it as an individual, you might not be worried about sensitive data because, for example, your name Carol, yeah, Carol is not a sensitive information. Okay, yeah. But if you are working in a company where they have company data, data, the company data is the value, is the real asset of a company. That is why you see companies are they are very sensitive to this topic, because if the model can absorb this thing, can absorb the data, and another company can ask the ChatGPT model to say something about that company, and it gives them an intellectual property or an internal secret, then your computer will definitely beat you. Okay. Now, maybe just to show you an example, if I ask this guy now about Graffiland, the fact that I've been feeding, you say, okay, it doesn't even give me anything dynamic. Graffiland will likely, but let me ask myself, maybe so I've been giving my name to this thing before, but it doesn't really gives me information about this. But sometimes when I ask to talk about like something that I've been using before, it actually gives me, showing that it's keeping memory of what I'm trying to do. So as an individual, those are the basic things you need to be aware of, especially when you start working. Don't copy your company data and put into ChatGPT, even though they claim they will not use it to train their model, but you don't know what is happening behind the scene. The same thing that Facebook is telling us, that, yeah, they claim that they don't use our data for anything, but we don't know what's happening behind the scene. So that's something you need to be aware of. So if you're at school or something, or you're doing something at school, you're dealing, especially in the health sector, you're dealing with patient data. Patient data is secret. You cannot take someone's result because you run a lab test and you don't know, you cannot interpret the result, and you carry it and put it into ChatGPT because you want to get an interpretation. In that case, you can take out the person's name, just put in the parameters, the result of the test, and ask it to interpret. It's going to interpret, rather than saying that this guy that of this age, date of birth, this is had this that. In that case, that is not the way to go. So anything that you feel like is sensitive, don't give it to the model. Yeah, and also big, I think, like European Union, even the US, they are also putting in place frameworks or things that you need to be aware of. Yeah, you cannot use the model to bias someone. So if you know your model, if you're using your model to do something to evaluate students' results, you need to be open about it, that you use this to evaluate student results. The fact that it's a model, you cannot be sure that it's giving consistent results. Okay, so you need to, if you're using it, make sure you mention it. Same thing, even for academic purpose. If your school allows it, or whatever you're doing allow that you can use it, then it's okay to write that as one of your tools or resources that you use ChatGPT for it. Because trust me, everyone is using it, even though they claim that they are not. Okay, Carol, you're welcome. Guys, yeah, we are really above time. I hope the session was great and you've learned something at least. As I mentioned, I'm going to take some time, prepare the slides, and also send you, obviously in the slides, you get the resources, and also in my email, you get the resources. I really encourage you to leverage the technology to your advantage. For those who code, for those who do stuff, this thing is very, very easy. It's going to make your life easy. You don't even need to think that much. If you have a code that you want to write, say, write me a function, the thing will spit out a function in less than 1 minute. I don't really write codes anymore, but if I need to, I don't think I'll be stressing anymore with codes. Just say, arrow, I need you to write a function arrow that does this, that has this, that takes into parameters and calculates something and gives me a result. In less than no time is going to give you something. So it's very, very powerful. Don't try to be tough. It doesn't pay. Be smart. Okay, guys, thank you. Yeah, thank you as well. You're welcome.